Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm immensely proud to present DoubleTap. DoubleTap is a plugin that my team and I at Submission Audio have been working on relentlessly for many months now. It's especially exciting because it's a distillation of my personal workflow as detailed in the systematic mixing guide, of course linked down below, in regards to achieving what I consider to be world-class bass tone in no time at all. So, what is DoubleTap? DoubleTap is a two-stage compressor saturator plugin that will reduce what was traditionally a fairly complex multi-track parallel workflow into the one simple, intuitive, scalable UI and let you achieve what I consider to be world-class bass tones in less than a minute. I'm of course going to show you the plugin in action and how to achieve this immediately after this, but before I do, make sure to subscribe to the channel in order to stay up to date with future gear reviews, tutorials, and of course, more releases from Submission Audio. Oh, and before I forget, just quickly, I'd like to thank my friends Adam Neely and Shawn for allowing me to use this song from their brand new Sungazer record called Machina. I'd also like to thank Simon Grove for allowing me to use his mix, which makes for a perfect playground for DoubleTap, given that it has both organic bass and synth bass working interwovenly. Right, so we're going to begin right near the end of the song, somewhere around about 2/3. There's a bit of a bridge breakdown section where the bass really comes in and starts pedaling the low notes. I think that's a perfect place to begin with the organic bass guitar. You can see that my chain is amazingly simple. It's a single track, no multi-track wizardry, right? We have Dark Glass Ultra, default cab setup, default mic setup just with these settings on the actual UI, nice and easy. And we literally just have a high pass filter on Pro Q3 to stop the bass conflicting with the bass drum. So let's take a quick listen to this section. It's so wonderful to work on some fusion material finally. I'm a massive jazz fusion fan, so it's not the alarm clock metal stuff for once, and it's so much easier to mix, which is what I love about this. I can showcase DoubleTap on some nice organic music, which is going to be really good. Well, semi-organic music anyway. So if you listen to the bass by itself, it sounds like this. So very, very softly pedaled, you know, very, very restrained kind of fusion style, which is kind of awesome for this. It's still a little bit pokey. You can hear some notes jumping out more than others. The DI compared to the processing chain is of course like this. So DI. And processing chain. We're giving it a little bit more, a bit of saturation, bit of overdrive, bit of high-end grit, so it just kind of sticks out through those layers of synths, right? Nice and basic. Now, listening to it like this, it is a little pokey, so this is where DoubleTap enters the equation. And voila, here is DoubleTap. This is how it loads up. I've made the interface an extremely simple serial workflow. So as you can see, it's divided up into two, or rather three main sections. You have the low compressor, which acts only on the low frequencies. You have the broadband compressor, which works across all frequencies. And you have the saturation section here in the middle. And of course, the EDM switch, which under the hood changes all the settings to make this plugin more suited to more aggressive EDM style synths rather than natural bass guitar. So we begin, and it's super, super simple. Let's take a listen to the bass. All right, begin by turning up the low compressor. Very, very quietly played, so it's taking a bit for the compressor to come into action. There we go, we're starting to hear it. You're starting to hear the low end even out more and more. There we go, that's what we want. So in the case of a light fusion bass like this, that's very, very quiet, I think it's actually pretty good even just touching one orange. Normally I would recommend getting into the orange, either 1 or 2 orange for most bass guitars, depending on how even you want the low end to be. Because this is very kind of sparse music compared to metal, you've got a lot more room to play with. There we go. Actually, I kind of like it on the 2 green on this. It really doesn't need that much compression in this genre, which is very, very cool. It's very, very kind of unexpected. Now, one thing you'll hear is that the lows are now a little bit misaligned in their level with the mids and the highs. So what we want to do is knock the lows back down to get it into alignment with how it was before. So we'll bypass for this. You can immediately hear how much fatter DoubleTap makes it, and we've only gone through one part of the processing chain. It's because it evens out those low and the mid bass and the low mid frequencies and mixes them back into the signal to just kind of give you a more flattened overall sound, because all the notes are more even. You no longer get that thinning out in the high notes and the fattening out in the low notes. They all sound nice and thick together. So after this, when we feel like that they're more or less in alignment with each other, we move on to the low compressor, and we're very, very subtle here. So here we go. Yeah, there we go. And that's it. That is about 80% of what there is to dial in DoubleTap. So let's try and balance it into the mix. Listen to how that lead pops out of the mix now. It's beautiful. Everything is nice and pinned. And the moment he jumps out away from pedaling those root notes, it just becomes absolutely brilliant. So we're not actually done. You can condense that process, obviously, when you're not talking about it, into a couple of seconds, which is what I love the most about DoubleTap. But now we move on to the saturation. Now, this is very subtle, so you have to listen very closely. We're going to use the glue algorithm first, right? So glue is so immensely subtle that it's more like a console saturation. It kind of adds that little last bit of harmonic fattening to kind of bring it into the bed of the mix. So let's kind of listen to it with the rest of the tracks running. See, it's pinned now. That's just beautiful. But glue isn't the end of it. Grunt is my personal favorite bass saturation, something I came upon all the way back in 2009 that I've been using for the rest of my career. And I'm immensely proud that the team have managed to reverse engineer it perfectly. So this is the closest thing I have to a special sauce to low-end processing, and I hope that you enjoy it. So let's take a listen to it on and off in the mix itself. So without, and then with. So grunt in some strange way re-injects dynamics back into the bass tone, but good dynamics, if that makes any sense. It makes the transients pop through in such a way that it gives the bass additional presence in the mix. Make sure to listen to this very closely yourself. I have a feeling YouTube compression won't do it any justice. Saturation is, of course, a very, very subtle effect and dialed very, very subtly on purpose here. But yes, this is the kind of sound that I absolutely love. So let's take a listen to a different part of the song, maybe at the end where we do some pedaling. You can hear that the glue just kind of subdues it a bit more, whereas the grunt gets more pokey, so. I think glue might work better for this music. All right, that's why you have both. And you get so much flexibility with, it's essentially an EQ at the end because you can control the lows in conjunction to the mids and the highs. And in conjunction with the Dark Glass Ultra in my case here, I can kind of carve everything else without relying on very much EQ whatsoever. And that's kind of the crux of this. You want to do as little processing as possible to get you as close as possible. And that's one of the things that makes me so proud about the way that DoubleTap works. And now let's jump onto the actual synth bass tracks. So that's the synth bass. Kind of a cool tone, but very, very pokey, isn't it? It's got very kind of a staccato vibe, so obviously we need compression and saturation to even this out. So enter DoubleTap. All right, here we go. So the first thing we do is click on the EDM switch. That changes the operation underneath the hood of a few things. The range of the all compressor, the broadband compressor, to make it way more usable across a wider range of gain reduction, and it makes the grunt way more aggressive. So let's take a listen. Oh yeah. It almost turns into a form of overdrive. I absolutely love it. We might have to knock down the level a bit to compensate. So immediately you can start with the saturation on synths. It's so much easier to work with synths, and you can be very, very heavy-handed and aggressive. So let's move on to the all comp after this. You can hear it getting squeezed now. Nice and even. Too much. So of course, changing it to EDM mode changes the scale of these lights, whereas in regular mode, they tend to go all the way from 1 up to 3 dB. Now it has a 10 dB scale and a 10 dB range. So 2 green on the all comp is very different on EDM mode than it is to the normal mode. Now let's dial in a little bit of the low comp just to even out the lower frequencies again. All right, let's compare it in and out. So this is without DoubleTap. With DoubleTap. Oh yeah, just immediately fatter. More presence, more weight, more everything. Only the good things. DoubleTap, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what's more to say that we haven't covered already in the demo? You can probably tell by now why I'm so absolutely stoked for DoubleTap. And what's more, it's by far our most aggressively priced plugin that we've ever released, meaning it should be accessible to more of you than ever before. If you'd like to see me using it on more traditional metal style content with maybe the gin bass or grove bass, do let me know in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure to hit the sub to stay up to date with future tutorials, product reviews, and whatever else we conjure up at Submission Audio. And of course, before I sign out, maybe consider checking out some of our prior videos that might help, like this one here, maybe that one there, maybe that one down there, or maybe even that one down there. And until the very next time, I'll see you all later.